بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family and his companions, and all those who followed him in excellence until the day of judgment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I pray that all of you, the sound is not clear again. La ilaha illallah. Alhamdulillah, is the voice clear? Inshallah, I hope the voice is clear. Allah. Tayyib. So I pray that Allah grants us all the sincere intention that we intend to draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We intend to earn the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We intend to get the pleasure of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And lastly, we intend to seek Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala in all that we do. Inshallah, today I wanted to talk about the proper way to learn al-Islam. Though we as a people have in America come a long way in our understanding of Islam and how we as Muslims are practicing Islam and learning Islam, but I look at our system that is dominant throughout the country, and I have a great concern that the methodology that we're employing is not a methodology that's going to produce future generations that are on the sound path of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And if that is missing, we won't ever be effective on the world scene of Islam, especially in the African American community, where deviant ideas for the past 100 years have been the main way that Islam has reached most of us. So every so many years, maybe every few decades, we discover a new understanding of what we call Islam. Yesterday, I listened to a lecture that talked about the history of Islam in the Black community. And often when I hear these discussions, I get kind of offended. And why do I say that? Maybe I shouldn't say offended. I get kind of disturbed a little bit. Maybe offended is the wrong word to use. Maybe disturbed is the better word. Because whoever's telling the story usually tells the story not as historical facts, but he tells the story or she tells the story according to where they're at in their level of Islam. Like, instead of admitting the whole picture, they just tell the part that relates to them. And I think that serves as an injustice to everyone who became Muslim and is striving to be on the correct understanding of Islam. So if someone, as an example, came through the nation of Islam, that was their way, their route to what they understand to be correct Sunni Islam. I think we have a general agreement in the Black community that Sunni Islam is the correct way to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In general, I think that's the agreement, as is with the rest of the ummah. So that's the term Sunni Islam. Now, when it comes to the methodology of what Sunni Islam is, there comes another issue. And I want to address it because if we're going to follow or learn Islam properly, we can't be afraid to have certain discussions. Because after all, we got to pass this religion down to succeeding generations. So Muslims after us are going to have a structure that allows them to grow and benefit as a community. So for instance, if one came to the nation of Islam, like our community, Masjid Muhammad, our masjid has its roots in the nation of Islam. So from 1955 to 1975, that was the methodology in Atlantic City, Temple number 10, under the Nation of Islam. After the death of the leader of the Nation of Islam, and it was passed on to the next generation under Imam Muhammad, our community changed, which they became like the World Community of Islam, Bilalians, and other names that came on later, as every so long a different name came. American Muslim Mission, so many different names. And then that is where some stopped in our community. And this can be reflective around the country. Some stopped right there. Others continue. They went, they learned, some traveled overseas to different lands, and they acquired different understandings of the religion, and then they got where they're at. Like Imam Imam has sent a group of students, which we had Imam Sulaiman Hamid on here, where he talked about his studies in Syria and those students that went to Syria. So they learned some things about Islam, about Sunni Islam, that they were not necessarily practicing the exact same way when they were here in America. And they have to bring that back and connect everything, and it's still growth in trying to get us to what we consider authentic Islamic understanding. Others, they had their route through the nation of through the Moorish Science Temple, and some are still there, and some went through that and developed. Some, like myself, my background came through the Ansar Allah community in Brooklyn, New York, under the leadership of Imam Isa, or you can call him Dr. York and whatever name you want to call, but that was some background. And then through that, I learned and I went overseas and I became a Sunni Muslim, and I learned a methodology to which I'm still upon today. So that was my route, right? Others, they came through different routes. But one thing that I've noticed, and today when we see us as Black African Americans, and it talks about all these different ways we came to Islam. So some people, they came through the Darul Islam movement. And I would like to have this discussion because I haven't seen one yet that I know from the Darul Islam movement, and we can have this discussion, I would love to have it, that really understood well what the Darul Islam movement, what was their methodology, right? And I'm going to talk about this as I'm getting somewhere. So the Darul Islam movement came all the way up to the late 70s, and then they split into the followers of Sheikh Mubarak Shah Jalani, and others followed Imam Jamil Amin, and there was a difference. So that's where you got the Fuqara Jama'ah, and you got the leadership of Imam Jamil. That's a split. So African Americans went two different ways within that community. And then you had many other communities. You had the Dinullah Institute University. You had Beitul Quraysh in Newark, New Jersey. You had many all over the country, different movements and understandings where African Americans came till we get to today. You get a lot of those people in the 80s, they went overseas to Saudi Arabia and they brought back the Wahhabi methodology under the name of the Salafi movement today we have. So you got so many different ways by which people in our communities understand Islam. So today, among the dominant methodologies are that Wahhabi Salafi strain of Islam. Then you have the Ahl Sunnah, people who follow Ash'ari, Maturidi, one of the four schools, and follow the Sufi path. And then there's this mass group of us, which I like to call default Wahhabis. And I want to further explain what I mean by that. And here's where politics come into it. That you have people who are just, let's say, Muslim. So they have no methodology. They don't really understand much Islam. They're new Muslims. They come into Islam and they're trying to learn. And this is the vast majority of people. So whatever interpretation of Islam they get, by default, that's what they're going to be. Even if they don't ascribe outwardly to a specific methodology, inwardly, they carry that methodology that was given to them. So with the establishment of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that was supported by the British, you had a connection with America, Europe, with Saudi Arabia. And that doctrine, with its oil dollars, spread around the Muslim world altogether, but became the main way of understanding Islam in America. Not that it's necessarily true, but it was funded, books were produced, and their methodology was put out, and they were supported by the non-Muslim rulers or governments of America and Europe, because it was Europe who supported, or the British who supported their movement in the beginning, and those relationships were established. And even in the prison system, to give you an example, all the chaplains that were put in the United States prison system were mostly people who were influenced or indoctrinated by Wahhabism. And that's how it spread like wildfire in the prisons. And so most of the people who were in prisons, unfortunately, which is a lot of African Americans, and those prisons are filled up with young African American men and women. And if all they got at their disposal are books from the Wahhabi methodology, then naturally when they come out, that's what they deem to be Islam. And I want to clarify something. And I'm going to be one who says that among us. Wahhabism is not traditional Islam. Wahhabism does not reflect true Sunni Islam. I'm saying that because that's going to be something we're going to have to realize. When I look at Wahhabism, I don't look at it no different than when I look at More Science Temple, Nation of Islam, Ansar Law Community, all these other different Ahmadiyya. All of these groups to me are the same. The misguidances between them differ. They're not the same beliefs. No, some got this methodology, some got this methodology, some got extreme kufr, some got problematic issues, some are just innovation. It varies from group to group, but all of them don't reflect clear Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And that's the point I want to establish. That so you're going to still have this development within Islam in America. A lot of people who have been Muslim for 20, 30 years are discovering or will discover that the methodology that you understand Islam has a lot of flaws in it, has a lot of mistakes, has not been accepted by the vast majority of the Muslim nation. And these things are important because we want to get to a point where our Islam is respected like Islam for everybody else in the world. And that's the only way you're going to be fair in the world. If we're going to stop racism, stop people looking at African American Muslims like we don't know Islam, we have to get an Islam that is sustainable. When I say Wahhabi, when you say Wahhabi, do you mean the Salafi? Yes, both are the same, no different. Now, within the Wahhabi movement or the Salafi movement, you have many different strains. They're not all the same. Don't think that everybody who says I'm Salafi feel the same way. It's not true. They have many strains within that group. You have the extreme movements that are terrorists. You got those who are like academic and they have a more political movement. You have those who are real radical religious types. And then you just got those who are just default Wahhabi, Salafi, but I'm just a Muslim in their mind. So this is important to understand. And when I'm saying these things, don't take it as a criticism, because it's not. I just want to talk about facts. You know what I mean? Like, and when I say criticism, not like I'm putting you down. Because I say you wrong, that doesn't mean I think bad of you. I mean, I want you to get it right. So if we never tell you this is a mistake, this is an error, this is things we need to fix, how are we ever going to change? How are we ever going to get to a point where on the world Islamic stage, we're considered equal to everyone else as a people? Uh, um, so this issue, this issue, I didn't get to your question. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I'm gonna come back to those questions. Put them up so I can answer them. But let me finish my point because I need you to understand my point. Uh, and I want you to know I'm not a type of person that I don't get offended quickly. I'm talking about if we're talking, we just dialoguing and we're because we need to do that. We shouldn't be so sensitive that someone disagrees with us. We like, I don't want to talk to you no more. Now we're trying to get it right. All of us. I believe even a person who totally is on another path. I don't believe the people that were in the Nation of Islam following the methodology of uh, Elijah Muhammad. And for those, with all due respect, those who say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I don't mean to disrespect you. I'm just saying so we can have a conversation. Because some people, if you say Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they're going to stop listening to you. They're not going to pay no attention. So let's just get the point. We don't got to argue about all that. I think everybody's past the extent to say, let me clarify that so I can, because for me, I'm tired of giving in to racist people. And I think sometimes we do that because they put a doctrine on us and force it down our throats and we accept it. I'm not accepting none of your stuff. We're not doing it. So when we talk about the Nation of Islam, there are people from my people, that's how they got to Islam. And they have reverence for Elijah Muhammad's effort to clean our people up and to build them to get to where they at. They ain't, and I gotta respect that. I'm not gonna disrespect that because some foreigners don't like it. Just don't like it. I'm not gonna do that. So with this, I'm just clearing my position about that. Because I don't think no Muslim is insulting that no Muslim who's Ahl Sunnah or is striving believe that Allah came in the person of a man. It ain't nobody talking about that. So stop focusing on something that no one's focusing on. Everyone is talking about building up our people, and they appreciate that. And every black leader that came before, that was their mission, to build us up. They didn't know Islam, just like you today, still struggling to learn Islam. So don't criticize them when you ain't criticizing yourself. Guy still is a Wahhabi thinking Allah is in heaven, and you worrying about Elijah Muhammad. You need to fix your Aqidah now, not from then. But don't let me get started with that stuff. I'm just making a point because it's insulting. You know what I mean? Like, I would say if it wasn't, everything's by Allah's will. We know that. We understand that. Ma sha'Allah can wa ma lam yasha' lam yakun. And everybody has their route to the truth. Everybody. None of us came if like just guided from the womb. We had to learn. Sometimes we learn right way, sometimes we learn the wrong way. But the end result is how we end our lives. So the methodology by which you get there, you got to respect that because that's how Allah willed to you to get to the truth. I don't know if I'm going off my point, but anyway. So please, I want to make that clear because I don't want us to miss the point by arguing or focusing on details that no one's arguing about. So my point is that everyone got their different way of coming to Islam. And we still, as a people, are still trying to get an understanding, because everyone who brings us Islam from outside of us, they have an agenda. And you need to understand that every group that comes within the Black community has an agenda, and the agenda ain't saving us, guiding us to Allah all the time. Sometimes it's to join a group, sometimes it's to make their numbers bigger, sometimes it's to misguide us, and we just don't know it. But everybody got an agenda. I want to get us to a point, and I would hope that I could play a role in that, where we understand Islam to an extent that no one can come pull the wool over our eyes. Like, we know our deen so well that no one can pull the wool over our eyes. And I'm trying through these talks to get us there. And there should come a point where we can start studying Islam properly and just move on from generation to generation. But a lot of times, because we're bombarded with all these different ideologies and we don't know how to sort them out, it prolongs, it prolongs the process of getting to correct Islam. I don't know why. It seems like is my point clear? I feel like I'm going into my my struggle with internet stuff. Talking to myself, I feel like. So let me change. Allah. Allah, give me a second. Is the voice still clear? Please tell me if the voice is clear. All right. I gotta switch my attention, because when I'm talking to the screen, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself and my mind goes somewhere else. So I need to be distracted with your comments and things. All right. So here's my point. I want us to look at Islam in our communities and match it to Islam around the world, right? And then we figure out what we need to do as a people to move forward. This guy, Muti, is so funny. Muti, did you ever work on being a comedian? The guy is comical. Clear and sit, Muti. Allah, I'm just gathering my thoughts. Hold on one second. So, getting back to my point when I was talking about what made me have this talk. So, when I was talking about like the Darul Islam movement, and I would love to have this discussion. So anyone who really has a firm understanding of the Darul Islam movement, a firm understanding, its methodology, its teachers, its movement, not just this was the Imam and we did this and we was the strongest Sunni Muslim. That's rhetoric. What was you really doing? What were you about? What was your knowledge? What books were you learning? What was your methodology of acquiring knowledge? Who were your shuyukh? How did y'all acquire knowledge? What was, you understand my point? What was your manhaj? What was your methodology? You say Sunni, that's so vague. What is meant by that? And listen, this can be, for some, they're gonna get mad. The same way you get offended, that's how others feel when you be talking about they wasn't on the Sunnah. It's the same thing. It's no different. It's the same. So don't get offended, just like you don't want them to get offended when someone talks to you. You understand what I mean? I mean, it's serious, because when I'm be honest, from my understanding, from everybody I've talked to, And from what I've researched, the Dar was in default Wahhabi mode. That was the Dar, default Wahhabi. Regular Muslims who wanted to learn Islam, but they didn't have teachers, they didn't have everything set up. They were just reading books from all over, and they got together in the name of Allah, and they try to do the best they can do, what they had to do. And that is the same as every other black movement. Every other black movement with the name of Islam went through the same thing. So when I see that, and that still is a stage, but still we haven't got to the point of fully understanding Ahl Sunnah. Because if your default position is Wahhabism, that's not Ahl Sunnah. That means you might have had bad beliefs and didn't know it. That means your methodology in fiqh was confused, and you may have rejected the spiritual aspect of Islam in terms of tasawwuf or practicing it. And I remember when it was a point that they wouldn't even make dhikr. They would make dhikr in private. That's not representative of Sunni Islam. Ahl Sunnah, past and present, all around the world, make dhikr. And you find circles of dhikr. That's part of Ahl Sunnah. That's part of tasawwuf. That didn't change. So when you can't do it, that shows you that Ahl Sunnah is not established. Right? So that's an important aspect. Where was our books of creed? What were we learning in that fiqh? Right? This is extremely important discussion. We should have it because we have to pass this stuff on to generations. Bismillah. All right, I'm gonna go back and answer a couple questions so I can get my focus back. I don't know why. Somehow my focus is like all over the place. So I'll answer a few questions. I think you got my point where I'm going at. We get those mornings when we're dragging. Today's one of them for me. Allah, I have an honest question. This is the first question, I assume. Didn't Abdul Wahab have teachers with ijazah or not is arguable, but he did have teachers, and his teachers were Hanbaliya, and they had teachers back and back. So is it not that they do trace their history back to some form? All right, Amin, let's fix some things in your question. Put that question back so I can see it. Let's fix some things, right? And we're brothers. Keep this in mind. We all learning and teaching each other. I'm not no big eye, no little U's. We brothers. So brothers, we love each other, and we're just searching for truth, right? So if I correct some things, and you can share back. Don't be afraid. Like, we can talk. We don't got to argue. Talk, kick it. I'm not saying you're arguing, but I want you to feel free with me. Don't feel like I can't really say, nah, talk. We brothers. We can kick it. All right. Let me fix the question, number one. Abdul Wahab is not who you're talking about. You're talking about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab. Abdul Wahab is his father. So Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab is the founder of the Wahhabiyya movement, right? Which became the modern day Salafi movement. So didn't Abdul Wahab have teachers? Abdul Wahab was a Hanbali scholar of renown in Arabia, in Najd. In that area, Abdul Wahab, Sheikh Abdul Wahab, the father, was a scholar of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So was his other son, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Wahab, Sheikh Sulaiman ibn Abdul Wahab. As for the son, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, he was raised in the house of a scholar. His father was a scholar. His brother was a scholar. They were Hanabila, Hanbalis, all of it, were ulama. The problem with him is that he deviated from their methodology. He himself, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, he deviated from the methodology of his father and the scholars of his time, and even his brother. And his brother, in exposing that, wrote an entire treatise against him called السوائق الإلهية في رد على الوهابية. That was his brother, Sheikh Sulaiman ibn Abdul Wahab. He wrote a book, The Lordly Lightning in Refuting the Wahhabis. السوائق الإلهية في رد على وهابية. So Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab was known to the people of his time as someone who deviated from the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So when you say he has ijazas or teachers, his father was a sheikh, his brother was a sheikh, all those Hanabil around them were Ahl Sunnah. He took from them in the beginning of his affair. So of course he had ijazas, of course he had connection. But what he did was deviated from that methodology. And let me add to that, we have the same thing. You have Salafi people who got ijazas. You got Salafi people who go to sheikhs and collect ijazas and learn from them and then say, you know, I got an ijazah from, you got Wahhabi Salafi people who got ijazah from our Sheikh Samir. And I'm telling you firsthand, Sheikh Samir does not approve of their methodology. But for some other reasons, some of their sincerity, he wanted, hopefully it would encourage them, he gave them ijazah. But in terms of their methodology, no way in the world he agrees with it. And I know some. And I remember on many occasions talking to the sheikh about this issue. And he would like, give them a chance, calm down, give them a chance. That's his way. Give them a chance, hopefully they will come along. But nevertheless, in no way does he approve of their deviation from the way of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's just by example. And many of the scholars were like that. Many of our ulama, they gave ijazah to those who came to them, hoping that by the blessing of that, they would come around. But in no way did they approve their deviant methodologies. I think that's clear, right? So when you say, is it not true? Is it not that they do trace their history back in some form? Absolutely not. Because even though they may have the connection of an ijazah, but they differ from everyone in the ijazah in their methodology. I'll give you another example before I move on. Azhar University is a perfect example. The methodology of Azhar is Ash'ari and Creed. When we say Ash'ari and Creed, they understand Ash'ari Maturidi. That's Azhar's methodology, right? Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and Aqidah, Ash'ari Maturidi. In fiqh, Azhar must say you have to follow a madhab. So they are Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali. That's the accepted 4 schools of Sunni Islam, right? And following the path of Tasawwuf. That's Ahl Sunnah, that's the methodology of Azhar University. But you have people who graduate from Azhar and they are Wahhabi and Salafi, and they have their Azhar hat, and you think, I graduated from Azhar, but you're not Azhari. You got an Azhar, you got a Shahada, you got a diploma, but you're not Azhari. You don't follow the methodology of Azhar. And a lot of people get tricked by that. A lot of people say, he agrees he's from Azhar. No, he got Azhar clothes, and his heart and his Aqidah, his faith, his practice is not Azhari at all. And all you got to do is know the methodology of Azhar. And there's a lot of politics that play into this. A lot. Politics play deep roots in people's way of their understanding Islam. So, I mean, I hope that clears it up. If you have more about it, you know, please feel free to continue the discussion. What's the next question? So you're saying we should focus on one school of classical Islamic thought? Absolutely. And here what I mean by that, in traditional Islam, Sunni Islam, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and let me make clear when I say Ahl Sunnah, you don't have to be Ahl Sunnah to be a Muslim. Please understand that. So long as you don't commit an act that is disbelief, kufr, takes you out of Islam, you're a Muslim, even if you don't follow a methodology. If you're not Ash'ari or Maturidi, but you have the correct belief, you're a Muslim, right? Being Ash'ari and Maturidi is to ensure that your understanding of Islamic belief is correct. But that doesn't mean if you're not an Ash'ari or Maturidi that you don't have the correct belief. Likewise, if you do an act of worship in a valid manner, even if you don't say I'm Hanafi, I'm Maliki, I'm Shafi, I'm Hanbali, if your act of worship is valid, correct according to Islamic jurisprudence, then your acts of worship, you don't have to be a Shafi to do that. But being a Maliki or a Shafi or Hanbali is to ensure to the best way possible that you perform your acts in a valid manner. And if you remove all the blameworthy characteristics and adorn yourself with all the praiseworthy characteristics, and you don't say I'm a Sufi, then you're still following the right way. Following a tariqah, following a path is to ensure you do that. So I hope you understand that. There's a difference for methodology and Muslim. So we don't say because you're not Ahl Sunnah, you're a kafir. No one says that, right? And whoever says that don't understand Islam. What makes you a disbeliever is that you believe something that takes you out of Islam, that is kufr, that you do something that is kufr, or that you say something that is kufr. And there's details to that. I'm just giving you the general. So if you have a belief that is kufr, if you do an action that is kufr, or you make a statement that is kufr, without details, I'm talking about just in general, these things take you out of Islam. Whether you are Ash'ari, or Maturidi, or Hanafi, or Maliki, or Shafi, or Hanbali, or Sufi. If you commit kufr, you're a kafir. It don't make a difference what methodology you're on. So we're talking two different things. Methodology, following a madhab, is to ensure to the best human way possible that you're performing your acts in a valid manner. So the scholars, they said that people are of two kinds in relation to al-fiqh, because you're talking about schools of fiqh. You're either a mujtahid, which is a qualified scholar able to deduce legal rulings on his own, or you are a muqallid, and you're obligated to follow the mujtahid scholar. Most of us, in fact, all of us, are not mujtahidun. We're not at the level of deducing legal rulings. So all of us are muqallidun. So since we are muqallidun, it is obligatory for us to follow a mujtahid. The mujtahid has laid those rulings in a madhab. That's why we follow schools of thought. I hope that is clear. So for us, all of us have to follow a madhab. The idea that we're going to follow Quran and Sunnah and we don't follow a madhab, that's delusion. That's never been accepted in this nation. Especially not from the likes of common people like ourselves. Tayyip, the next question. You're right. I know this may seem off, but go back to question back. This issue of saying is black, we should give the text and we should look at what the commentator said on that. Because I can't know the meaning of what Qadi Iyad meant by that. Is it confirmed from Qadi Iyad? What did the commentators on Shifa say about it? I can't answer that question. Is that something that is by consensus? The answer is no. But I think what is understood from that is to describe the prophet other than that which was related about him. And that's a whole nother discussion, because color in terms that we describe is not the same that was understood among the Arabs. So the terms we use are not the same as the terms. So I wouldn't jump on that because that's an Arabic discussion, and color and related to Arabic, you can't make it equivalent to English. So what he may have said, and Allah knows best, I would have to see the text. I have it, but if you can point exactly where that text is, I got many copies of Shifa. I can go look at the exact wording and then go look up its explanation, inshallah. But I don't just jump out because remember, a lot of stuff is translations, and a lot of stuff get lost in translations. So we should know the intent of the one who said it and what he meant by it. And I don't know what Qadi Iyad, rahimahullah ta'ala, meant by that statement, and we should seek more details. Yes, At-Tahawiyah is a good book to learn in Aqidah. However, you need to be careful because Wahhabi, Salafi people have published many versions of the Creed of At-Tahawiyah, and they put their bad belief inside those books. So be careful. Go ahead. Allah, explain the types of mujtahids. In general, you got several types of mujtahids, and each school is more detailed. In general, you have an absolute mujtahid. That means that he can deduce legal rulings for all the rules of the sacred law from the primary sources. That's one level, absolute mujtahid. Under that, you have a qualified mujtahid or restricted mujtahid, meaning he's able to do ijtihad, which is to do legal rulings, but he does it under the methodology of the absolute mujtahid. So he is a mujtahid, but he follows the methodology in doing that of the absolute mujtahid. Then you have a mujtahid within a school, meaning within the school, he's able to exercise his legal reasoning within the bounds of one school. Then you have a mujtahid in certain cases, with mujtahid fil masail, right? And that means in certain cases he can perform ijtihad, but not in all the cases of the Sharia. So these are different levels of ijtihad. Below all of that are different levels of scholars till you get to common people. Now, go ahead. That's it. Any more questions? Wow, it's 8 o'clock. I'll pick this up tomorrow. Yes, so this was what was, and let me explain something to you because I want to at least summarize my point. What I want us to be able to do as a people is extremely important, especially if we ever going to be respected on the national scene, right? We got to know what we're doing, right? Islam, Sunni Islam, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, has a methodology in every science, right? So, for instance, in the Ash'ari school or the Maturidi school in Aqid, and I'm going to share this stuff with you because we got to start getting some kind of, structure to what we're doing in terms of our communities and our masajid and our families. In Aqidah, we have in Ahl Sunnah among the Ash'ari or Ash'aira or Ash'aris and Maturidis, we have specific scholars that are well known, trustworthy, reliable ulama, past and present, and we have reliable books that convey the madhab in the Ash'ari and the Maturidi schools. Likewise, in fiqh, we have in all four schools well-known, trustworthy scholars, some of them mujtahidun, some of them less than that in level. And all those levels that we talked about, the absolute mujtahid, the restricted mujtahid, the mujtahid in the madhab, the mujtahid in cases. In every school, you got this type of formation. Then you have reliable books, books for beginners, books for intermediate students, books for advanced students, advanced commentaries on the books for advanced students in every school. And in Tasawwuf, we have main well-known scholars in Tasawwuf that have been accepted by the whole Ummah. We have paths of spiritual wayfaring or training that are well-known and have been established. And all of these, in Aqidah and Fiqh and Tasawwuf, all of these are with unbroken chains of narration. Likewise, in the secondary sciences, sciences of Hadith, sciences of Fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh, Tafsir, Sirah, history, Arabic language, we have main scholars, reliable books, and chains of narration. We want that in everything we do. It's available, but we got to learn it. And we'll never get it so long as Wahhabism or Salafism is a dominant strain within our communities. Why? Because Wahhabism and its offshoot, Salafism, was designed to destroy traditional Islam. That was its purpose. Its purpose was to overthrow you guys are funny, right? Its purpose was to overthrow the Ottoman Empire, which was the governmental arm of Ahl Sunnah. So the whole establishment of Wahhabism was with the support of the British to overthrow the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire ruled the Muslim world for 700 years and was the foundation of leadership and government structure and military might for Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah for 700 years. And if you study Mecca and Medina before the time of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and his army and the Saud family, you will see that this was Ahl Sunnah. What I'm talking about, that's what Mecca and Medina looked like before the coming of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and the Saud family and their marriage with the British. What I'm talking about, that was Islam in Mecca and Medina. Not this stuff you see today. But and I want to share something. I'll give you an analogy that I was talking about yesterday with someone. Because of the government of Saudi Arabia and its support of the West and its military might from the West, that's the only reason it's still there. If America and Europe backed out of Saudi Arabia, it wouldn't be there for 1 month. It'd be gone. They'd be out. 1 month. 1 month it would not take if they didn't have United States of America and Europe and those forces supporting and protecting the royal family, which they call themselves royal. I don't see anything royal about them, but since we can't say we can't say Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I don't know why we say the royal family of Saudi Arabia, but never mind. But anyway, that was my shot. That was a dig, as they called it. If it wasn't for the help of the European nations, the non-Muslim nations, the Saudi Arabian government would be finished in 1 month. As soon as they took their hands off, they're gone. The Muslim Ahl Sunnah countries would come take it from them. But they got the support from the armies of the kuffar. This is real. And now they're buying weapons, and because they know that. And that's why during the Gulf War, America had to come, because they would have been out of there quick. But may Allah remove injustice from the earth altogether, and so that we can have our sacred cities and our sacred mosques back in the hands of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So I needed you to understand that. But here's the point. This ain't the first time this happened in history. So because they got the government and they got the sacred cities and they got the support of the West, don't think that America is running the policy in Saudi Arabia. They pushing it. They control the West, tell you what to do. That's why they're changing their curriculum. That's why they're not so hardline. I'm going to share you over the next coming weeks. I'm just writing stuff out from the books of the students of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and from his writings. So you see how they really felt. When you understand what was going on in history, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But in the past, the Mu'tazila, they ruled the government. They had took over with the rulers in the Abbasid Khilafate. And if you wasn't Mu'tazila, you were under torture, like Imam Ahmed and so many others. But that didn't represent true practice and understanding of Islam. That was a deviant group who got political power and they ruled things. And after time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed them. So now this has happened multiple times. Azhar was built and was ran by Shia at one time. This happens. So now we're under the influence of the Wahhabis in the Mecca and Medina and in Arabia, supported by the West. That doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. And that doesn't change it to truth. They butchered their way and killed Muslims and destroyed our Islamic tradition to be in charge. This is real. This is history. And people want to change history. And we know better than that, especially Black Americans. We from America. We know what they do. We know how they'll butcher people and tell a whole nother story. And people will buy it. There's no such thing as racism. It's just about money. Okay. It is about money, but it is racism too. You know, or we all the same. We ain't all the same. It's not. There's a concentrated effort to make sure Black people don't rise. That's real. That's part of white supremacy. But anyway, that's my long 1 hour rant. Any questions about what I covered? I'm going to come back tomorrow with a little bit more. I don't know why I got a little bit of got a little bit off track in my mind for some odd reason. Maybe I'm sleepy. Allah, question. Let me go back. Allah. I think I covered everything, right? Let me just go back. I don't think it has nothing to do with Quranic Arabic. I think we had a disadvantage because we have been the victims of others not teaching us true Islam and trying to benefit off of our lack of familiarity with the religion. Because learning Arabic don't mean you're going to be guided. I see, put that question back. I wanted to make sure I was talking to the right person. Put the question that you just had up back. Okay, leave it. Don't take it off till I finish. Barakallahu fiki. So when I look at that, right, many of us now, we know Arabic, but we still misguided. And that is because Arabic is not sufficient. You need Arabic and access, two things. Because you can know Arabic, but if you don't have access, then your Arabic is not going to help you. So that's what I tell a lot of the brothers. I remember one young guy in my city. He was a friend of my son. And he's in the University of Medina now. And I think he's going to be graduating soon. Allah knows best. But I remember he used to come to my house And he was just a little radical young kid following the Salafi thing, and he just want to be, want to debate all the time, right? And at the time, he's like, only reason you been able to seem like you know more than me because you know Arabic. I said, okay, then you need to stop. You need to go learn Arabic. And if you don't learn your religion, no matter how much Arabic, you're just going to say the same ugly, deviant stuff in Arabic. It ain't going to change. Now you were saying Allah is above the throne and that's a place for him. You're going to say now Allah fawqa al-arsh wa hadha makanahu. Wal-iyadhu billah. That's all you're going to say. You just change the words in Arabic. It's still ugly and disbelief to put Allah in a location. No matter how you say it, English, Arabic, Chinese for that matter. So if you don't have access, it is the same. So instead of saying Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, rose above the throne, and it's literal, you say Ar-Rahman ala arsh istawa bidhatihi, which is wrong. No matter what language you say it in, is wrong. So it's access to real scholarship, to classical books, to classical scholars. That's what's needed, not just Arabic language. And this idea of Quranic Arabic, nobody in the world speaks Quranic Arabic, so don't worry about that. Quranic Arabic is left in the Quran. Trust me, don't no one talk like that, nowhere in the world. Now, go ahead. Next question. And another thing, we do need Arabic, but stop being impressed by Arabic. Arabic does not entail you know the religion. Trust me. I know a lot of Arabs who speak Arabic and non-Arabic, and they got beliefs, wal-iyadhu billah, by consensus that are kufr. So you do need Arabic. That doesn't mean you know the religion. That means you have a better chance of access. More is available to you if you study. But if you don't study, no matter how much Arabic you know, it doesn't matter. The Saudis speak Arabic. They do. Though, when I mean those who follow the Wahhabi methodology, the Salafi method, they speak Arabic better than me, way better than me. I don't even know Arabic compared to some of them. But they got bad belief. So how did the Arabic help them? And which is worse, because if they were studied the classical books, there's no way they would come from that. Your knowledge of Arabic and you still think Allah is a body and Allah is in locations and moves, and you know Arabic? I don't even know Arabic, and I ain't no better than that from Arabic language. And when I say I don't know Arabic, meaning I'm not masterful, I'm not skillful in the Arabic language. I know enough that you can't trick me. But these people, some of these are skillful in the Arabic language and don't even know basic aqidah. Basic things that if you know Arabic, that stuff don't even make sense. So let's not get confused with that. You need to learn properly. It ain't just because you know Arabic language. That ain't gonna help you. So, and for us, for African Americans, don't get lost. And that's been the thing that's been kicking our butts. Somebody come back, they blazing with Arabic, and we already think they know the deen. So when people come for me with that stuff, I stop them. You know, they come and they start trying to talk Arabic in the masjid, act like they're Sheikh al-Islam. And my first thing is, can you speak English? You can? All right, do me a favor. If there is no need for an Arabic point you're trying to convey, when you speak to people about the religion, please speak to them in English. I'm not impressed. Because most of that stuff is just showing off. It has nothing to do with the point. Most of the time, the person's talking to someone in Arabic and you don't speak Arabic. You don't even know what I'm talking about. So what's the point? Unless I'm trying to convey an idea to you that needs Arabic understanding, other than that, I'm showing off. And that's a major sin of the heart. What good is it? There's no point. We're not having an Arabic lesson. We're just talking. So what's the point? Knock it off. All right, go ahead. Allah. I should have 3 more questions. Is it? Oh, I'm done. Ibn Taymiyyah, he believed that Allah literally descends. And this is among the reasons why the scholars rejected his understanding. He was among the modern mushabbiha of his time. He lived in the 8th century, but those ideas existed from the 3rd and 4th century Hijrah, and he just revived them. And no one accepted that. If you're talking about the narration of Ibn Taymiyyah supposed to give a lecture in Jumu'ah, and he descended the minbar, and he said, Allah descends as I descend like this. Some scholars have mentioned that, but the Wahhabi Salafi people will deny he said that. So that's not really, it's mentioned in the travels of Ibn Battuta, but they don't accept that. They say it's not accurate. But nevertheless, his books are filled with a tashbih, with likening Allah to his creation. So even without that statement, his other books are clear that that was his belief, that Allah literally moves, descends from one location to another, which is wrong.
There are no more questions.
What is Ibn Taymiyyah is too advanced? I don't understand. Okay. Inshallah, we'll pick it up. That is a good question. How do you de-salafy yourself? I find I don't trust any scholar in Islam now. That's a good question. And really, that question is the result that I'm afraid for African Americans. That so many people have lied to us in the name of Islam that one day we ain't gonna trust nobody. But what I say to you is that, number one, we got to get out of personalities and we got to get consensus, right? So don't let nobody call you to them. You know, come be my student, my follower, follow my way. No. I just want to learn Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And that way, if I show you the methodology, which is trustworthy chains of narrations, trustworthy books, trustworthy scholars that have been accepted by the nation for centuries and centuries and centuries, and then you weigh the individual that you're dealing with based on that scale. Give you an example. When I say Salafis are deviant, I have no doubt about it. It's a new religion. No doubt about it. I said it just like that. It's a new religion that was not understood prior to the past 200 years. It has the foundational elements of Islam, but it has its ideas that are rejected by Islamic scholarship for the history of Islam. All those ideas that are the ideas that make Salafi Wahhabi, these are ideas that were rejected by the vast majority, 98% of the Muslim nation have rejected those ideas. So when someone tells me it's a choice I'm going to make, 98% of the Muslims for the past 15 centuries have been misguided, and for the past 200 years, this small band of people who call to these ideas are correct, and we didn't know nothing about Islam until they came. I don't accept that for multiple reasons. But that's the final analysis. For you to say that the Salafi way or the Wahhabi way is right, by necessity, You're saying Muslims didn't know their Islam. They were all confused. They were all mushriks. They were all misguided for 1,500 years. And in the 14th century, a man named Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab came and he revived Islam and he gave us the true Islam that we had missed for all these years. This is ludicrous. But some people actually accept that claim. They just don't realize they accept that claim. That's what you're saying. That don't make no sense whatsoever. But people buy it. Just like people thought Christopher Columbus discovered America. Just like some kids believe Santa Claus exists. Nah, seriously, I'm not trying to be funny. Some stuff is crazy, but people believe it. It's some people that say Donald Trump is not a racist. I don't know how the hell they got that, but in their mind, he's not a racist. He loves black people. Hey, that's the way it exists. But I tell you the biggest problem in America. The biggest problem in America, it ain't that we can't know. We got enough people who know Ahl Sunnah. And I'm going to put some burden on us as the regular layman Muslims. We got a lot of African-American Sunni Muslims who are Ash'ari, Maturidi, follow the four schools, follow Tasawwuf. But a lot of them, they need money. So for support, they remain silent or they speak in an evasive way so they're not detected. And they compromise their principles to get along because they're not in power. That's why you'll find Sunnis that are Ahl Sunnah supporting Wahhabi or Salafi causes. This is my understanding of it. Because I've been around Ahl Sunnah for the last almost 30 years of more than 30 years of my life. And our scholars don't do that. They don't. But in America, and it's the same thing in Saudi Arabia. It's a lot of Sunni scholars in Saudi Arabia, but they got to remain silent. For them, they could be killed or put in jail. So I got why they be silent. But in their houses, they teach. I got teachers in Saudi Arabia. They just can't come out. They can't manifest because of the oppressive government. They're either going to be killed or they're going to be put in jail or they're going to be kicked out the country. And they want to be next to the Prophet. They want to be next to the Kaaba. So they remain silent. But don't think that all of Saudi Arabia is full of Wahhabis. That's not the case. There are a lot of Ahl Sunnah scholars in Saudi Arabia. So what I say is empower us. And you can empower us with your money. Spend the money so we can be free to teach. Everybody is not in the same condition. And even though I totally disagree with selling your deen for a worldly price, but they may not look at it like that. They'll make other excuses. We're trying to unite everybody, and hopefully if we befriend them, inshallah, after time, we're going to teach them, and they're going to become Ahl Sunnah, and that might work. I'm not saying it won't work. I've seen it work. But I don't think that works for the masses. That may be for individuals. So out of every 1,000 you help lead astray, you may guide one. That's how I see it. But that's just me, right? But that's a problem. But I know that problem could be solved if they were financially free. If we had institutions that were Sunni institutions that were supported and funded by us, especially in the black community, because you got a lot of brothers that they got to go to the immigrant communities just to get money. So they got to tap dance and they got to bow their heads and they got to do all that just to support their masjid. I know many black imams who would love to speak out against racism in Islam, but they get their money from foreigners and immigrants. And they're afraid that if I say something, the immigrants going to take the money. And now I'm going to be in trouble because y'all don't support me. This is serious. Did you hear what I just said? I'll repeat it. I know many Black African-American Sunni imams who rely on money from immigrants to support the masjid because African Americans are not supporting their leadership or their masajid the way they should. So the imam or that teacher is forced to earn money from the immigrants. So therefore, since his hand is always out and they're always putting the money in his hand, he don't want to bite the hand that feeds him, even if the hand that feeds him is unjust in some ways. That happens. And I got a lot of immigrant friends, students, teachers, and they just know me, Imam Amin not gonna do that. Don't give me no money. I don't want your money. If your money means me being silent about the truth, keep your money. I don't need it. I'll figure it out with the help of Allah and my efforts. But I'm not going to do that. But not everybody's in that position. Not everybody feels that way. So it's extremely important that you support your institutions, especially Black leadership. You got to support them, make them independent. So they're not worrying about money. They're not worrying about, I got to watch my mouth, or they might not fund me. That donation I was getting, that $10,000 donation once a year, or that fundraiser they let me do in their mosque, they're not going to let me do it if I say something that offends them, or that even if it's true, they're not going. So they hold their tongue. You know, come on, man. Help your people. You got a job. Stop being tight. We're working. We're in the field. So let me say, I speak on behalf of the other African American imams. Up on the thing, there's ways to donate. MMACINC.org, donate. You can go to our website. You can donate. We need hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this work. Cash App, $ Masjid Muhammad AC. Donate. We need help. PayPal me /MMACINC. PayPal. We need help. And anyone knows, you know what I do with this money? I get those teachers. Right now we're in the pandemic, so I used to just bring them to the masjid. That's how I did the African American Summit, the African American Islamic Summit, right? That's how I did all that stuff. I take your money and I'll go fund those teachers who are Ahl Sunnah, who I know who they are, but they need money and they're shy to ask for money. And they are just in the immigrant communities at their, at their mercy for money. And I say, listen, you ain't got to do that. Come with us. We're going to pay you. I give them the money. And I pay them well, equivalent to what they would get in these immigrant communities, so you can speak up. And those of them who know me know that's what I do. I try to fund them so they don't have to go put their head down and not speak the truth. But I need your help to do that. I need your help. And we can't. I remember a Christian lady said to me one time, she was a Christian woman, Black Christian preacher woman. She said to me, she said, Imam, you got to start teaching your people the gospel of prosperity. I cracked up laughing. She said, because if you don't tell them that that black dollar is powerful, but they got to put it in the mosque so that you can use it to spread your message, then you're going to be struggling. It's going to be hard to get your message out because you ain't going to be able to finance the message. The message, we're in America. It needs to be financed. It needs to be marketed. It needs to be advertised. That stuff costs money. It's not free. Right? This platform that we're on right now with all this stuff, it costs money. Some of you on Facebook, some of you on YouTube, some of you on the webpage, some on Instagram, but we're on a whole nother platform. And this is what the immigrant communities are using. But this stuff costs money. It's not free. These platforms cost money. Buildings cost money. Renting these big halls to bring all these speakers together to teach, that stuff costs money. And we got to realize that. Stop giving the black dollar to where it's not serving you. Give the black dollar where it's serving you. And those immigrants who understand what we're saying, you want to help, spend your money. Stop being tight with your money. Help your Muslim brothers spread the truth. That's my closing. Because if we don't do that, if we don't tell you, some won't do anything. They'll just come listen every week and every day, enjoy themselves, and they'll never spend a dime. And that won't help us. But if you don't got money, you convey the message and you make dua and you encourage others to spend their money. But we need $1 million or more effort on spreading correct Sunni Islam in the black community. That's the amount we need to go all around the country, to reach all the places, because we're competing with people who got millions of dollars to spread their message. Millions. Wahhabism is funded by oil money. And even those who don't take their money, they get the platform from them, which is also a help. We don't got none of that. Sunni Muslims don't got that kind of background. If we don't do it, no one's going to help us. Trust me, they'll give us some token donation, but it ain't going to empower us to do nothing. They're not. I want you to challenge yourself to research something. Give me one black masjid that you know that got $1 million in the bank for the mosque. $1 million in the mosque. Guess what? When the nation was ended, they had multiple millions of dollars in the mosque. When Elijah Muhammad died, there was millions in their bank accounts behind their effort. The Ansars, talk about what you want, they had millions of dollars supporting their methodology. And we got to do the same thing. I got the network. We just need funding. I got a group of African-American Sunni people who studied overseas, but they got to be quiet because we're not helping. They know behind the scenes they talking, but man, they trying to survive. They're trying to keep their institutions going. And it's a racist environment that people act like it ain't. It's a serious racist environment in Islam. And they got to survive. Whether I disagree or not, they got to survive. They got to take care of their children. And we not supporting like we should. No, my brother, Atlanta don't got that kind of money. They wish they had that kind of money. They struggling too. They doing a lot better than a lot of others, but they don't got that kind of money. No, absolutely not. It's available, but the people don't give it because we've not understood how important what we're trying to do. All right, let me stop here. I think y'all got my point. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khaira. No, you starved. I didn't starve. I had plenty of money. I used to make my quota and some. No, I'm joking. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'll see y'all tomorrow, inshallah.